Well, good morning, guys. It's been a while, unless of course you've been following our travel journey. It's been quite some time since I posted to Bimbles with a camera, but I think that's about to change. I'm currently in northern Spain. We've been on the road in the van now since about mid-April. It's currently end of August. It's been a challenging year. Again, for those of you who follow our travel channel, you'll know that. But I'm actually out this morning. I'm writing a travel article at the moment. We're on the N260 road through the Spanish Pyrenees, and so looking to grab some images. And the little village that we're in at the moment is absolutely beautiful, and we're surrounded by the low and high peaks of the Spanish Pyrenees. And so given the fact that later on today there's going to be a lot of cloud moving in, it looks like we're just at the start of that bank now. I thought we might be able to get some nice cloud cover, nice light in those high altitude clouds. Now that is what's happened, but sadly I think at sunrise here there probably wasn't an image to be had. Over to my left and now behind me here, this is probably the image that I wanted to take, but I think this is more for sunset, which we may come back to later. The sun is actually rising up behind here, so it's creating too much of a contrast. Nice to look at. The image probably to be had was over here, but sadly I don't have a long enough lens to extract, remove, even in a very narrow X-pan type panoramic, to remove a lot of the distractions in the bottom of the frame. Still made an image, but I don't think it's to be had. Now, a little bit of alpenglow way on the highest peak over here, which I think is just over 3,000 meters. I think the highest peak that we have here. But again, don't really have a long enough lens for that. So it might just be a case of enjoying the sunrise. Maybe if it pokes up here, we might get a bit of light on the foreground. But given the fact that this is a travel article, I don't have to worry about just shooting at the edges of the day. I was looking to maybe throw in a couple of those images, but it's also about blue sky days as well. Now the little village behind me here does get extremely busy. We went for a wander through it last night, so I'm hoping to be able to go down there this morning and maybe grab a couple of images of the empty streets. We're actually just parked over here. Maybe make a couple of images here, look for a couple of other compositions maybe for this evening, and I guess we'll wander down into the village and see whether we can grab some shots down there. It's good to be back. So I've actually decided to hang out here. The sun is rising over the visible horizon faster than I thought it would. Now the light has gone from the clouds, but it is actually starting to, as it rises, the light is starting to sweep across the landscape. Now it might open up a couple of other compositional opportunities, I'm not sure. Another big shame is the fact that they're obviously preparing for a festival of sorts here, so it kind of rules out. I was going to go for a sweeping shot behind me off the path, especially if that sun comes up and gives us some nice side lighting, but huge big white tent kind of ruins that. Maybe if I punch in a little bit, it might give me something. I reckon another 10-15 minutes that sun will actually have poked up, and as I say, it might give us a couple of extra opportunities. I still don't think it's going to give me what I wanted here. I think that is a sunset shot because the sunset does come over here, illuminating those. Say last night, beautiful light on the mountains, but zero cloud above, and just wasn't really cutting it. Oh, hang on a minute. So right above me here, I'm not sure if you can make out the textures in those clouds. Could be a shot there. Maybe pushing my lens up. I've been shooting a 16:9 composition on the X-T4, but I think with that texture in those clouds, might be something there. I'll be right back. So as you can probably see on my face, that sun has now risen above the mountains. Now it probably will, because that cloud bank is pushing in from the north. I think in the next hour or so that will be snuffed out. But right now it's giving some lovely side light to the village from this higher vantage point, and again without the crowds. Probably good to get maybe a bit of an opening shot. Now, in any travel article that I write, which is normally about 2,000 words, I probably submit about 50 images, half of which, maybe more, are actually taken on the iPhone. And we'll maybe talk about that later or in an upcoming vlog. So of course, I'm submitting 50 images, but they probably only use about 10, 12 images per article. So from each location that I'm writing about, I'm probably looking for an opening scene, something to give context to the region. And then there's a lot more sort of detailed shots as well, because they can sort of fill little holes. So I'm kind of looking here as this as an opening shot, but whether or not it gets used or whether it'll be one of the shots from the street, anyone's guess. But it's always good to have a little bit of coverage. Now, what's interesting is travel articles that I write, they really want the full frame image, so they can then crop in, whereas I would be sort of looking to shoot this in a panoramic, mainly to avoid getting in any of the cars and things like that. But I am shooting this sort of the full aspect ratio. I can crop in afterwards, but I'm actually shooting in camera with full aspect ratio, just to sort of give me that full composition. But this sets the scene for the village, along with a little nod to the Ainsa in the background. We'll take a wander down into the village and see whether we can pick up a couple of shots. So again, thinking about the area in context to its surroundings, or an opening frame for that location, I actually came across this little walkway into the village. Now, I can already tell that sun is starting to disappear behind the clouds, which actually, to be honest, maybe will give me some even sort of subdued lighting down in the village. But I thought this might actually work well as well. I loved how the light, again, you can probably make it out, it's really starting to kind of subdue. But you've got the lovely archway, the lead-in path, and then you've got that church tower as well. Starting already, it's just after 8 a.m, starting already to get a little bit busy. Hopefully we can grab 2 or 3 shots down in the village itself. But yeah, I reckon that cloud cover has already started to snuff the sun out. Let's wander on. So wandering through the little village streets, trying to pick up 1 or 2 images that really tell the story of this old place. Not least the narrow cobble streets and the lovely stonework. Now the problem I found with the sun disappearing behind the clouds, rather than it giving us a nice soft light throughout, it was actually washing out the sky. So obviously a couple of options there. 1, shoot a couple of bracketed shots, or 2, remove the sky altogether, which I've done before in a couple of village shoots that I've done for magazines. Not least Dinan in France, actually one of my favourite little medieval villages that we've been exploring. But this scene here caught my eye. I actually came across it last night and thought, you know what, that might be one to shoot in the morning. There's a couple of things that I'm paying attention to. Number 1, if I go a little bit too far to my left, I'm not sure you'll be able to make it out, but there is a car parked just on the other side of the archway. Obviously we don't want to have that in the scene. Number 2, there is a tourism sign. Obviously this is a holiday let or something here. And while it is part of the village, and I could obviously remove it in post, although really shouldn't be doing that with commercial work. So I've got to look at a composition that's going to sort of maybe remove that completely. A couple of things I really love about the composition. The lovely curve of the tower juxtaposed beside the harsher line of the roof. And then of course you've got a nice little sort of cobbled street, just a slight curve leading off in below the archway. And then paying attention to, in the distance, you've also got some lovely lattice windows and a lovely big wooden door as well. So just looking to see whether I can make an image there. Now, about 10-15 minutes ago, the sun did actually break through a little bit of a gap, and I thought that might actually prove to be quite nice. But unfortunately, all it did was it lit up the tower, and we had sort of a very harsh shadow between the tower and sort of the underside of the archway. So I actually think I prefer it with a more even light throughout. But again, who knows? So shooting in a vertical position, I actually am shooting these images bracketed as well, but I probably wouldn't need to compose them together. I'll probably be able to just use one of them. Now, the other thing as well is, sorry, I forgot to mention, Again, just adding a little bit of splash of colour. Lovely plant pot down here, and then further on there's a few plants as well. So a couple of thoughts as I went through composing this image on the old GFX. Good to get the big boy out once in a while. I take a last 10-minute wander through the village, but stomach's starting to rumble, and it might be time for that all-important second coffee. But I don't think we're done with the village just yet. Obviously, it's now only about 9 AM. We're going to start seeing those day visitors come in, but maybe later on this evening we'll be able to get out and shoot sunset against those mountains, which are just over here behind me. Right. Quick wander, but more than likely coffee time, and we'll catch up later. Well, good evening, guys. I'm actually pointing the camera this way because otherwise I would be very much backlit. So we're out trying to chase a little bit of sunset colour on them thar hills. Now, a couple of things I was going to try this evening. Firstly, I was planning on shooting this scene from on top of the castle walls or the town walls. But a couple of things there. One, slightly further away, and two, it obviously gets very busy. So I came up to a little viewpoint about an hour ago and realised this would actually be the better position. So I then had to scamper a couple of K back to the van, pick up my gear, and now making my way back up again. The second thing was, Nicola and I went out on a pretty big hike yesterday, and we actually got some fantastic views off the village with these mountains framed behind it. And I thought that would actually make for another one of those sort of setting the scene shots. But I had to make a decision because I don't think I could have got both images, that and this one, because of what's happening over in the west, in the northwest. There is a relatively large weather system by the looks of things moving down. Now, according to satellite view and weather radar, it shouldn't impact us too much, but I'm not really believing that. So a combination of the fact that the clouds are moving towards me, the sun is moving towards the clouds, there is a very good chance that it's going to snuff out the light. And in fact, now the mountains have obviously disappeared out of view at the moment. I'm pretty sure that because of the altitude of the mountains and the angle of the sun at the moment, even though we're having this lovely, rich, warm evening light on the trees around me here, I'm pretty sure we're not seeing the same light on the side of those mountains, which is a bit of a pain. But we'll carry on. Got to be in it to win it and all of that. So it's about another 10-minute walk to the viewpoint. I think because it's not that far, it's only a couple of K from the village, there probably will still be a few people around, but we'll see. Oh, will she or won't she? And another reason actually why I plumped for this shot rather than the one of the town was, if neither of the shots were to be used by the magazine, I would at least have an image that I'd be pleased with, which would be the mountain one rather than the one looking under the town. But yeah, you can probably see on my face that cloud. There's a little sliver of it that already seems to have had its wicked way with the sun. So what we're probably going to have to do is shoot a couple of images as safety shots well before the peak light. But hey, we'll talk about it more when we get up to the viewpoint. Right guys, well, we are in position. Going to be shooting initially on the GFX, and again, as I said in the previous part of the vlog, I'm shooting the full aspect ratio. I probably will, for my own satisfaction, crop in on camera as well with an X-Pan type panoramic, just to cut out this midground. Now, I do have the 18:135 on the X-T4 that I can probably shoot an even closer image with, and if the light continues to develop, then that's what we'll do. Now, as you can probably make out behind me, those clouds seem to be behaving themselves somewhat They're kind of sweeping around the mountain. Now what's unfortunate is the river below me here is really dry, because the path of the river and the curve of the clouds is actually creating quite a nice image there as well, but the river is completely bone dry. Now what we really want is a little bit of high altitude cloud over the mountain and a gap in the clouds over here, so we get some nice light on the mountain and maybe some colour in the clouds. But you know us photographers, we don't ask for much, do we? At least it's nice and quiet up here. There was another shot to be had of the village down the way with the Embalsa in the background, but sadly right in the middle of the Embalsa there was an electricity pylon, and I know that Adobe have gone to great lengths to give us automatic pylon removal software. It sounds like some medical condition. But no, I've decided to stay put here. It is now 20 past 7, and I reckon in about 20 minutes time, that's probably when we're going to see the optimum light before the sun disappears behind the mountains or the clouds. Right, the waiting game now. So hold that thought in terms of there only being one composition. I was actually just walking around with the X-T4, and right behind me I just saw this lovely rustic looking bush. And of course, after what I said about the curve of the river mimicking the curves in the texture in the clouds, I thought, hang on a minute, Nigel. I mean, those mountains aren't going anywhere, and at the moment the sun still has, you can probably just see over my shoulder here, a pretty nice gap. So in a vertical composition, there's also a very nice kind of rustic looking rock. It's a rock with a big crack in it. A little bonus image now. I don't think I would even think about submitting this to the magazine. This is for my personal collection. Now, because we've got very close foreground details here, I'm actually focus stacking this. One in the foreground, one in the midground, and one on those mountains. And we shall blend as necessary. But yeah, quite pleased. I've got a second shot here actually, so let me know what you think. So I think we're getting very close to that crossover point between the best of the light, or best of the light that it's going to get for me, and the shape and the sort of volume of the clouds above the mountain. There is still enough of a gap over to the west, so I'm not rushing too much, but I can definitely see that some of the vibrancy of that light on the cliff face has subdued a little bit, so there obviously is a little bit of haze going on there, and of course we also have a thicker sort of bank of cloud just above us here as well, so we'll give it another 10 minutes, but we probably will need to fire off a safety shot before too much longer. What a stunning evening though. Absolutely beautiful. And nobody else around. The intensity just doesn't seem to be building as much as I had hoped. There's obviously always quite difficult, because whenever you're looking directly into the sun, it's very difficult to make out whether or not it's being obscured by some sort of wispy clouds, and I think that's exactly what's happening. Because it's just not, I would have thought by now, with 20 minutes, 25 minutes to go before sunset, it would have been slightly more intense. But the problem with those clouds above as well, they've kind of lost their, sorry, I'm getting eaten by something here. They've kind of lost their texture as well, so they've just gone a little bit meh, technical term. So this may be a bit of a bust. But then again, better to be out with a camera than not, in a beautiful location. Pretty much I've only seen one other hiker come through. Anyway, we shall wait and see. Well, I think this is as good as it's going to get, at least from the light on the cliff face. So we're about 10 minutes away from sunset, maybe 15, but I'm only about another 5 minutes away from losing the direct light onto the mountain. So I'm going to make the image the full aspect image now, and then I'm also going to punch in with an X-Pan type panoramic. Disappointing. I'm mostly disappointed actually, because the light's subtle, it's nice on the cliff, but I'm mostly disappointed that those clouds have kind of just gone wishy-washy. So we'll make the image, make 2 images, and I guess that might be it. You win some, you lose some. Let me know what you think. So now we wait and see whether those clouds are going to pick up any sort of glow. Now this image wouldn't be for the magazine. This again would be for my own little personal collection. As you can see, that sun is very quickly slipping behind the visible horizon. We still have about 10 minutes before it actually sets. But if there was going to be a gap on the horizon, I obviously can't see it. There's a chance that some of these clouds might light up. And we might even get a little bit of reflective glow off the clouds, reflecting back onto the rocks, which might make for a nice image as well. But now we just wait. I'm going to watch a little bit of the football, and we'll wait and see. Well, as you can see, the light did intensify somewhat, and then the clouds, as I had hoped, started to take on some beautiful, beautiful light. And they actually got a little bit more textured as well. But as I was quite surprised, there must have been a gap in the mountains that I can't see. So pretty much until the sun actually set, the cliffs were still getting beautiful warm light on them. Now I ended up switching across to the 18-135 just so I could be a bit more dynamic with the compositions, punching in quite close. You can actually see as well, like the clouds are still doing their thing. I didn't actually record anything at that point because I was joined by 8 or 9 young loons. 4 of them were wearing Santa hats. There you go. But they were all very pleasant. So I just focused on making the images. But yeah, thankfully the clouds did actually light up, giving me a couple of other options for compositions. So I'm going to wander back down, dump this stuff off in the van, and then go meet Nicola. She's been patiently waiting down in the village, and we'll chill out there for a bit. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at sort of my thought process as I'm looking to capture some images for a travel magazine. Probably do another couple of these in the next few months. Mix it up with some traditional landscape shoots and maybe even some street shooting as well. I've been doing quite a lot of street photography because of the locations that we've been in. Now over the next week we're going to be continuing to head west along the N260, and then we're probably going to skip the French Pyrenees and head straight up into the French Alps and into Switzerland, and hopefully get out with the old pixel box and make some images. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.